Hi, my name is Nandini, as Vanita was very kind to introduce. I'm just going to quickly take you through how to use social media technologies for customer acquisition, for reaching out to customers. There is a three-component story to this reaching out to customers. What I really mean is that when we say reaching out to customers, one is how to acquire your first customer, how to get that customer to acquire other customers for you, and of course how to retain all of them. That's really the way, that's the importance of customer acquisition here. When you're using internet media, for acquiring your customer, for reaching out to your market, one thing you should be conscious about, that it is a medium which has its upside and its downside. The biggest upside, of course, is that you don't have to spend too much money. There is a virality to it. You acquire one customer. If he is happy, he will bring in 10 other customers. 10 other customers will bring in 10 other customers. In the shortest possible time, you can acquire your entire market. That's the biggest upside of using social media technologies. But the biggest downside is, if you haven't got your model right, if you're not doing the right things, and your customer is not happy with you, then the chances are that it's not just one unhappy customer, it will be a whole community of unhappy customers that you will have out there. Let me just give you an example of this. I'm assuming many of you know, the portal dig.com, D-I-G-G, dig.com. A 26-year-old youngster started it many years ago, a youngster called Kevin Rose. The dig.com business model is that they ask the readers to aggregate the headlines from across the world, news headlines from across the world, and all of it comes onto the dig portal. And then other readers dig out these stories and rate them. It's a very simple business model. One day, this was, I think, somewhere in April 2007, somebody dug a headline, wrote it on his blog saying, all the big music companies are baying for my blood, and he put some random numbers like 09791102 .. And he said, everyone's baying for my blood because this is the DVD code, and I didn't know DVD codes can be copyrighted. If you all got the drift of what I am saying, what he actually did was cracked the very well-guarded DVD format code for all the existing movies. So you can imagine the big guns in the movie industry, the Warner Brothers, the Walt Disneys, the Microsofts, the Sonys, the Panasonics, all of them came together, formed a consortium practically overnight, and threatened Kevin Rose, saying, you cannot put this news item, you'll have to remove this. Kevin Rose, of course, was a youngster, right, 26 years old, so he obviously got scared. And he said, all right, let me take this off. I don't want to, at this age, I don't want to face the muscle power of the big guns, so let me take it off. By which time, what happened? The news had been, the story had been plugged in the morning. By afternoon, even though Kevin Rose had taken it off the net, a number of links had been created. So by afternoon, there were more than 300 links on the internet. By evening, there were some 2,000 links on the internet. And all the big guns came to Kevin and said, you better stop this. You have to stop this right away. And Kevin said, what can I do? The only thing I can do is take it off my portal. Beyond that, I don't have a control over the internet. It has a life of its own. So in the next 3 days, I think it built up to something like 35,000 links. So there was nothing, nobody could do a thing. So somebody on a TV show commenting about this, because Kevin Rose was very well known, right? He had been on the cover of Business Week and all that. He wasn't a small town guy. So when he took it off, Kevin Rose thought now he only had to face the music, from the big guys from the entertainment industry. What he did not factor was that his customers also would be up in arms against him. Customers said, hello, this was not just the best headline of today, this was the best headline of the century. How dare you take it off? So now he is in a bind. Rose does not know whether he should listen to his customer or listen to the consortium that is threatening him. So finally, at the end of the day, he decided, in any case, all the links that are out there on the internet. So even if I take it off, it isn't going to make a difference to anybody. So he blogged on dig.com saying, all right, guys, I hear what you're saying. You are saying that, if it is a good headline, it should go. And we shouldn't really moderate it. So here it is, back. And I also hear you guys saying, if we have to die just because somebody is going to kick us, let's go down dying, after we've put up a good fight. So the link came back on dig.com. So somebody on a TV show commented that, when you put things on the internet, you have to be very careful. Once you've put it, it's there. There is nothing you can do about it. So you have to be very careful. So somebody, went to the extreme of saying, it's like trying to take pee out of a swimming pool. You obviously can't do it. Now, what do I mean by the post method? The reason you want to use social media technologies is really for 4 things. 1, you want to use technology as a strategy to achieve your objective by getting all your people together. By people, I mean your entire community of users together. That's really what we're talking about. So post is for people, objective, strategy, and technology. Now, when you want to, review what is the best social media technology for me, it's not that you will blindly do it. It's not that your competitor is using a blog and therefore you will use a blog. It's not that your competitor has put up several audio visuals on YouTube and you're going to blindly follow that. What you need to look at is, what is my strategy? And how will I use social media to sit in with this strategy? That's really what you're looking at here, right? So there are 4, 5 different reasons why you want to look at social media as a strategy. The first one, I want to listen to my customer, right? When you are in the growth phase, you're not a startup, you're in the growth phase, your product is out there in the market, and you want to know what people are saying about your product, good, bad, ugly, indifferent. All of it you want to know. So what's the best way of doing it? Let's look at a very interesting example, and I'm going to share a number of examples with you because the only way you will all appreciate what I am saying is by, going through some of the examples. Mini Cooper. You all know Mini Cooper is an evangelical brand, right? It's almost like Harley Davidson. The people who use a Mini Cooper will swear by the Mini Cooper and will never move to any other car. Big, small, doesn't matter. They will never move to any other car. In 2007, if I remember right, I think it was 2007, the brand manager, Trudy Hardy, had, a huge issue on her hand. There were 2 other competitors, right? Mini has a competitor from the Volkswagen Jetta and, of course, from Honda. So the others had introduced, smaller cars with very new features. And Mini was going to the market that year with not a single additional feature. So Trudy Hardy's challenge was, I have nothing to talk about to my customers. So what do I do? So it gave her an opportunity to say, all right, this year we won't talk. This year we will listen. So she retained, a rating company, a market research rating company called MotiveQuest. And what did they do? They asked MotiveQuest to monitor all that was being said on the internet, in different chat rooms, in different auto clubs about what they thought of Mini. And she said, let's aggregate all of this and see whether this year we can come up with a marketing strategy aimed not at new customers, prospective customers, but existing Mini customers. So they hit upon a brilliant idea where on the television they advertised a code, and to all their 36,000 customer database, they sent, a back-end mail. So you could crack the code only if you opened your mail and matched the two. So customers were absolutely delighted. It was almost as if every single ad on television was directed at a particular customer. I mean, if you make the customer feel that important, there is a whole television campaign addressed to only you. You can imagine. So what transpired after that was the customers loved it. They talked about it not just to 2 people or 5 people. They talked about it to 10 people. They said, oh, you know what? This is what Mini did to us. And Mini is an awesome car. And you know, these guys are an awesome company. And that's how virally. And it is very interesting to see sometimes when you use social media technologies, you may not actually see a measurable result in terms of sales. But here, that year, Mini sold 36,000 more cars than the previous years, just on the strength of this campaign. And see how interesting it is. They didn't market it to prospective customers. They marketed it only to existing customers. And the customers, in turn, marketed it to, you know, the new customers. So the strategy here was all about listening to what my customers say. Now, as a company, you may say, no, I have a lot of things to talk about to my customer. I need to figure out an interesting way of engaging with my customer. Doing a television ad isn't going to help me. You know, sending out inserts is not going to help me. How do I talk to my customer in a focused manner? Again, a very interesting you know, strategy that Procter & Gamble came up with for their tampons. They tried talking to teenage girls who are supposed to use tampons through a television medium, through a newspaper medium, through magazine ads. Nothing helped. They were not able to reach out to the customer. So they came up with this brilliant strategy called, you know, starting a website called beinggirl.com. And the interesting thing about beinggirl.com is that they did not promote tampons at all. They had 2 separate sections here. One section was all about whatever interests the teenagers. Talk about anything and everything under the sun that is of interest to the teenagers. That was one section. Section 2 was a, you know, was a Q&A called Ask Iris. Ask Iris was this person with whom they could have an intense conversation. Ask her things they would be either ashamed to ask or shy to ask anybody else. For instance, questions like, if I have my periods, can I go swimming, or will a shark bite me? You know, things you can never ask your mom, your friends, or whatever. You can't ask your friends probably because your friends may not know the answer. Your mom because she's likely to shoo you away and say, oof, you know, don't ask stupid questions. So here was Aunt Iris, who was this very nice, motherly, friendly looking person, and you could ask her anything. Now, on the first section where they allowed teenagers to blog about anything that interested them, it built a whole community because one of the things this encouraged was talk about anything that comes to your mind. Good things, smart things, ugly things, embarrassing things. So the tipping point actually came when a, I think 11 or 12-year-old girl blogged one day saying, you know, I've been checking out this guy in my class. He's a basketball jock, but he has never given me the time of the day. Yesterday, I met him at the locker room, and we started having a conversation. I was very busy checking him out, so I never listened to what he was talking. Somewhere along the way, he said, have you done it? And I said, no, I'm waiting for the right guy. And he looked at me very puzzled and said, what are you talking about? I was asking you whether you have done snowboarding before. And I felt so embarrassed because I thought he was asking me if I had sex. And I said, no, I was waiting for the right guy. And it brought in, one blog brought in 19,212 responses. Other girls laughing, saying, my God, we can understand how embarrassed you must have been. People logging in saying this was the biggest joke of the year. People logging in saying, my God, I have an equally embarrassing story to share. So suddenly, everybody was talking about beinggirl.com. The site averaged 40 million hits per day. Nowhere on the site did they talk about tampon or that the site was promoting tampons. At the bottom of the page, in very fine print, it said, powered by always pads and tampons. That's it. Did they build a community? You bet they did. Did the community buy? You bet they did. Did it translate to rich sales? Absolutely. And even to this day, beinggirl.com is one of the most popular websites. You can check it out. The third reason, now we've heard, we've seen the first strategy, to listen. We've seen the second strategy, to talk. There is a third strategy. I want to energize my community, my user community. I want every single customer of mine to evangelize the whole community. He should be the Messiah. People should look upon him as a Messiah. He should be able to sell my product. I don't need to have a sales department. One customer of mine and he will be able to sell it to everybody. There's a company called Widgets. They have a very uninteresting, very prosaic product. They manufacture laptops. Very exciting, very exotic. But I managed to build an evangelical community. I do it. Many years ago, I think about 3 or 4 years ago, there was a customer called Jim Noble who had bought a bag. Those days, bags was just an ordinary company. He bought a laptop and he bought a laptop bag from eBags. He went to Hong Kong. The zipper of the laptop bag broke. He came back and blogged about it. He said eBags is a lousy company. The zipper broke. I could not carry my laptop. I had to get the zipper fixed. And I spent more money in Hong Kong getting the zipper fixed than I spent on the bloody bag. So what do? This is a lousy company. Don't buy from them. The vice president marketing of eBags saw the blog. He wrote to Jim Noble and he said, let's meet. They met. So what did he offer Jim Noble? Any ordinary company would have said, we'll give you a replacement for the bag. Jim Noble, the vice president, didn't stop there. He, of course, gave Jim Noble a replacement. He also kept in touch with Jim Noble. So I was saying, one way of doing this is by listening. The second could be by talking. The third could be by simply saying, I want every customer of mine to be an evangelist. I don't want to hire sales teams, business development people. I want, once my customer buys it from me, I want him to be able to sell it to everybody else, right? I don't think eBags was this great evangelical company once upon a time, and they actually became so about 3 or 4 years ago. And it started with this traveling salesman called Jim Noble. He had bought a laptop, therefore he had bought a eBag. Like I said, eBag is in the business of making laptop bags. Nothing interesting, nothing exotic, as prosaic a product as that, right? So Jim Noble went to Hong Kong carrying his laptop and the eBag. He came back and blogged saying, guys, don't ever buy an eBag, for your laptop because it sucks. I went to Hong Kong and the zipper broke and I spent more money on the zipper, getting the zipper fixed, than I spent on the whole bloody bag. So it's a lousy company, it's a lousy product, don't buy. The vice president of eBags saw the blog. He approached Jim Noble. And typically, when you complain about a product, the first thing that the company comes up with is the company will say, oh, don't badmouth us. We will give you a replacement. The eBag vice president went a step beyond that. Of course, he gave him the replacement. No two ways about it. So Jim Noble was a little happy, but not significantly happy. About a month later, the vice president wrote to Jim Noble saying, you know what? We heard you. We've changed our zipper manufacturer now. We no longer buy from the guy whom we used to buy it from. We buy it now from a better guy, better quality zips. Thank you, Jim Noble, for bringing this to our notice. Now, if you were Jim Noble, would you be excited? You obviously would, right? You would say, wow, a big company like eBag took me seriously. took my problem seriously, and addressed it very, very efficiently. So result is what? Every time Jim Noble travels, if the passenger next to him on the flight is carrying a laptop but not an bag, he will go on and on about how he should change his bag. Why? Because eBags is an amazing company with an amazing product. So now you listen, you talk, you energize. What's the fourth one? How do I embrace my customer? How do I embrace my customer in developing the product itself? How do I partner with my customer in developing my product? Those of you, who are fond of pets or have pets at home may have heard of a company called Delmont Foods. They're based out of the US. They are a pet food manufacturer, but I think a large amount of focus is dog and cat food. And they do something very interesting. They don't develop dog and cat recipes on their own. They have a site called dogsarepeople2.com. So what they do is energize the whole pet owner community by saying, what does your dog or cat like? Why don't you blog about it? So I will write, if I'm a South Indian and I have a dog which has largely been raised a South Indian, chances are I will say, what, my dog loves curd rice. He loves a sprinkling of vegetables and he loves curd rice. If I'm probably, in any other part of the world, I'd probably say my dog loves sausages. We used to have a dog, a Lhasa, who would kill for a banana. Okay, so you collect all these recipes, you aggregate all these recipes on the website, and you develop a product taking into account what owners have said about their dog's likes and dislikes. And then when you put the product out, you blog on the website, okay, saying, hey, you know what? You said your dog loves bacon for breakfast. Here is a dog food which has a tinge of bacon in it. So why don't you try giving it to your dog and come back to us and tell us whether your dog loved it. So when products like this go on the market, I will definitely buy it, because the way I look at it, I had a hand in creating the product. I partnered with this company in creating the product. So it's a brilliant way for an organization to embrace the user community and develop the product. Supporting. Massachusetts General Hospital, MGH, found that, more than the problems of the patients are taken care of anyway by the hospital, but more than the problems of the patients, it's the problems of the family members who are caregivers that has to be addressed. They had a very interesting blog once which said, till the 7th month, we never knew my wife was carrying twins. Somehow the scan never showed up. Now suddenly yesterday we are told we are going to have twins. Now we're not ready for it. How are we going to deal with it? We've made arrangements. Both of us are working. We've made arrangements, once Cindy gets back to work, somebody will take care of one baby. How the hell are we going to manage 2 babies? So MGH created what is called care pages, where if you were a family member or, of one of the patients there, you could actually fall back upon care pages, create a whole network of people there. They need not be necessarily from your family, but from, caregivers from other families of other patients. And you could create a whole community by yourself and say, you know what, I'm not the only one who's feeling low because somebody in my family has cancer. There are 10 other people. And this is how they have dealt with it. This is how they are supporting me. This is how I will support them. And this is how we will we will form a support community amongst each other. A brilliant way, of making sure that this does not, of course, translate to any revenue directly, but this is a brilliant way of showing that as a hospital, you're not just worried about, managed healthcare, you're also worried about the human side of it and that you understand the problem. So when you're looking at technology as a strategy, you're looking at 5 things.
And that really is, how it should be defined. You're looking at, do I want to talk to my customer? Do I want to listen to my customer? Do I want to energize my user community? Do I want to embrace my user community to develop my product? And of course, do I want to be a support system for my user community? All of it, is a plus any which way you look at it. And what lends itself beautifully to doing all these things at zero cost practically is using social media technologies. This is what is generally called groundswell thinking. You know what groundswell is, right? You build that bubble from the bottom. You build it from the bottom, and the bubble goes up and up and up, and it carries with it the entire sweep. So what starts off as one customer eventually becomes a beautiful one customer told 10 customers, told 20 customers, told 100 customers, and it becomes a beautiful groundswell. That's what this whole thinking is all about. And in a way, it is like your jujutsu martial art technique. This is not about developing your technique in isolation. This is about understanding what your competitor has, what advantage, what technique your competitor has, harnessing it to your advantage, not harnessing it to his advantage, but harnessing your competitor's techniques to your advantage. That's exactly what you're trying to do here. Now, it's interesting here because the power shift is happening. Earlier, when you wanted when you wanted a watch, you went to a watch company and bought it. Now you don't do that. You can go on eBay and buy it from another user. So what you have done actually is shifted power from the institution, which is the organization, to individual hands. All of you are taking charge of it yourselves, and you are saying, we will create, if your product is good, we will create a big user community. If your product is not good, we will make sure nobody in this world buys you. It's as simple as that. When you are choosing your technology, you have to be very clear. The technology is not what is important. It is a relationship optimizing technology. Why are you doing it? Like I said, am I doing it to listen? Am I doing it to talk? You have to determine that. It has to sit in with your overall business strategy. So technology is only a facilitator here. What really you have to concentrate on is what kind of relationship building am I looking at? Okay, and based on that, you can decide on choosing the technology. So what are all the social media technologies that you're looking at? I'm sure all of you have blogged at some point or another in your life. When you blog, you are creating and sharing, right? So each one serves a particular purpose. Blogs, for instance, is all about being creative and sharing your creativity with the rest of the community. People connecting, all your social networking sites, your microblogging sites, Twitter, your LinkedIn, your MySpace, Facebook, Orkut once upon a time, Bebo, all of these are nothing but connecting one to the other. It's no longer, I mean, we don't live lives private anymore, right? We love to live in the limelight. Limelight is no longer just for celebrities. We want to be able to tell the whole world. I don't know how many of you followed this particular tweet on Twitter, I think a few months ago. A lady tweeted saying, oops, my child has fallen into the well. It caused a huge furor because the next tweet was, oops, the doctor says she's dead. And the furor was about, instead of saving her child, what was she doing, busily tweeting? This is, of course, an extreme form that, all social networking sites, this is not what they promote, but sometimes what users do, and users do some mindless things. But if you want to use it constructively, you can use Facebook, you can use, and here again, I must caution you, people think that you can just open a community page on Facebook and say, now I will wait for the community people to arrive. That's not the way it's going to happen. You have to actively market it. You have to actively engage your community. And that's the only way FB or a MySpace can become an effective tool. People collaborating, you know about Wiki, you know about open source technology, how you can leverage all these to make sure that I am doing something in my space, you are doing something in your space. If we both collaborate, we don't have to each reinvent what the other is doing, but we can both hit the ground running. Really, that's what the open source technology and wikis are all about. Forums. Earlier, you had to depend on the newspapers to tell you whether a movie is good or not so good. Today, you're able to rate each other, right? You can go to a site like BitTorrent, Rotten Tomatoes, if you want to look at movie reviews. You can go to a site like BitTorrent if you want to share music with each other, pretty much the way Napster used to do it. You can go to a Craigslist if you want to hire a nanny for your child. You have pretty much disrupted the role of the organization here. You are saying, no, I would rather connect to the person directly than going through an organization. You can share pictures on Flickr. You can tag. You can tag pretty much everything. I think YouTube, some of these are good examples of what I'm saying. Delicious, for instance. Delicious, I'm assuming some of you have used Delicious. Delicious is a bookmarking site. Before Delicious, on your laptop or desktop, you could bookmark earlier. Now, Delicious, which was, about a year ago, bought over by Yahoo, stores all your bookmarks on its server, which means the whole world, if you want the whole world to see it, the whole world can see it. So which means the whole world also can visit all the sites or places or events that you have bookmarked, which means there is a virality that is built into the whole system. Like I said, tags, a Flickr is a tag, a YouTube is a tag. All of these basically means that you don't have to, basically it means you can share. And in the process of sharing, you can build a whole user community together. RSS and widgets. RSS, of course, is, where instead of you going to a blog and pulling up a blog, an RSS feed typically is where if you register for any of these RSS feeds, they keep sending you. Like, for instance, if you register for cricinfo.com, all the cricket feeds are parceled out to you, in a timely manner. Similarly, widgets. You could have a weather widget on your desktop. You could have any of these things, which could be interesting, which could reach out to you instead of you trying or attempting to reach out to those gadgets. If, very loosely termed, a widget is typically called a gadget. Like I said, technology is only a facilitator. Before you choose technology, just look at some thumb rules. Is it easy to connect? Is it a new way to connect with people? Is it easy to sign up? Is there a power shift from the individual, from the institution to the individual? And is it temporary? I mean, can I sustain content on it? Unless you're able to sustain content on it, there is no point opening a blogging page or whatever. There is no point blogging once a year. I mean, you will never build any user community based on that. So can I create content, whatever technology I use, can I create content which is sustainable and therefore which is viral and can have a life of its own, is really what you're seeing. And the most important, is it open platform? Do I have to, am I going to have navigation problems? Am I going to have payment problems? Or is it easy? It's open platform. A lot of new things will, keep getting added to it, and I can keep learning and revisiting the whole exercise. Some good examples, AFOL. I'm sure many of you have used Lego blocks. The interesting thing here, AFOL stands for Adult Fans of Lego. Lego blocks are meant for children, right? And you would think, looking at their success, that Lego blocks are built by the company. On both counts, you are wrong. 60% of the sales come from adult fans of Lego. It's adultfans, AFOL.com. You can check it out. They have created a network called Lugnet, Lugnet. Lego User Group Network is what it stands for. And the most interesting feature, most of the Lego block games are designed by users. It's not designed by the company. How did it happen? Because like AFOL is a very embracing kind of a concept. They partner with their customers, and most of the Lego blocks are created by their customers. Salesforce.com, I'm sure many of you may have used. It's not a software. It's a CRM solution, but it's not a software. It's an on-demand service, which means there are updates constantly. You can use it, and it's, per pay use. And one of the interesting open source models Salesforce.com used was it opened it to customers saying, new features, whatever you want, we will incorporate. The only problem was that every month they received 5,000 mails asking for new features, each of them different features. So how did the company manage it? They used a tool, an application called Crispy News, which pretty much like Dig.com used to get the customers to prioritize. So the customers prioritized and said, hey, you know what, there are 5,000, but these 10 are the most critical features that should go on Salesforce.com. And that's how they managed the application beautifully. And even to this day, let me tell you, there are any number of competitors, copiers, I shouldn't call them competitors, copiers to Salesforce.com. None of them has managed it as effectively as Salesforce did. Delicious, we've already talked about. Consumerist is a portal for consumer complaints. Let me share a story with you. There used to be an airline called Spirit Airline operating in the US. I'm going to wrap up very quickly with this slide. There used to be an airline called Spirit Airline, and a flyer, a customer once wrote to the managing director saying, I flew on your airline yesterday and it sucks. The crew couldn't be bothered about me. We had the most horrible landing. Nothing was nice about your aircraft or your service. So the managing director wanted to forward this mail to his general manager, customer service. So he wrote to his general manager saying, here is a complaint from an idiotic customer. I don't give a damn whether he stays with us or goes. You better deal with him and ask him to he used a 4-letter word, of course, basically wanted to get rid of him. He wanted to forward this mail to his general manager. Instead, he hit the reply button. So the mail got published on the Consumerist. Of course, there is no Spirit's airline today. That was the power of the Consumerist portal. Boeing, of course, traditional brick and mortar company, has used Randy's journal. Please please Google Randy's journal. You will see how beautifully Boeing has used blogging as a tool for communicating with their customers. And even when Airbus managed to beat Boeing by launching their 787, and Boeing was still struggling to get their aircraft online, they did a very smart thing. They blogged in Randy's journal. Randy Tinsett was the guy who started it. Randy Tinsett blogged. He was the managing director. He blogged saying, you know what, guys, Airbus has just launched 787. It's awesome. It's beautiful. And you know what? Their first customer is Singapore Airlines, which is our biggest customer. So that is the power of social media technologies. I think now, quickly I want to wrap this by saying, as an entrepreneur, you must have been told that you will not make the cut if you are not hungry, right? My theory really is, it's not enough that you are hungry. You need to make your customers hungry. Look at Apple. I mean, I can't really think of any other example. You wait in queues for days on end, for God's sake. Why? It's not that Steve Jobs is hungry. Steve Jobs makes all his customers not just hungry, but probably starve for life. They wait in queues, they give up sleep, they do everything. Why? Because they want to be the ones to pick up the first iPod, the first iPad, whatever. So as an entrepreneur, I think it's very important for you to know and understand that it's not enough that as an entrepreneur you are hungry. How do I make my customers hungry? I think whether you build a successful business or not depends on the hungry quotient, the hunger quotient that you're able to infuse into the system. Thanks. We're open for questions now.